We'll be starting with center planning in this video. Now, the plans which are formulated by the central government and financed by it for the implementation at the national level are known as central plans. Over the years, center has launched 3 such plans and the government has maintained continuity in their implementation. The 3 plans are 5-year plans, 20-point program, and the Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, that is MPLAD. Now, starting with the 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan, this is the most important among the central plans and is being continuously implemented one after the other since planning commenced in India. As planning has been a purely political exercise in India, the 5-year plans of the country have seen many unstable and critical moments till date. Several new developments related to planning took place during the years. Given below is a concise summary of the plans as well as we see their different periods of the implementation. Now, the first plan, the period for this plan was 1951 to 56, as the economy was facing the problem of large-scale food grain imports, 1951, and the pressure of price rise. The plan accorded the highest priority to agriculture, including irrigation and power projects. About 44.6% of the plan outlay went in favor of public sector undertaking, that is PSUs. The plan was launched with a lofty idea of socio-economic development, which had frustrating outcomes in the following years. Now, the second plan, the plan period was 1956 to 61. The strategy of growth laid emphasis on rapid industrialization with focus on heavy industries and capital goods. The plan was developed by Professor Mahalanobis due to the implementation of a closed economy. Assumption of a closed economy, shortage of food and capital were felt during this plan. Now, the plan period, third plan, the plan period was 1961 to 65. The plan specifically incorporated the development of agriculture as one of the objectives of planning in India, besides for the first time considering the aim of balanced regional development. Enough misfortunes awaited this plan. 2 wars, one with China in 1961-62 and the other with Pakistan in 65-66, along the Gujarat border, and a severe drought-led famine in 1965-66 had to be faced. Due to heavy drains and diversion of funds, this plan utterly failed to meet its target. Now, 3 annual plans. The period of 3 consecutive annual plan was 1966 to 69. Though the 4th plan was ready for implementation in 1966, the weak financial situation as well as low morale after defeat by China, the government decided to go for annual plans for 1966 and 67. Due to the same reason, the government went for another 2 such plans in the forthcoming years. The broader objective of the annual plans were inside the design of the 4th plan, which would have been implemented for the period 1966-71, had the financial conditions not worsened by then. Some economists as well as the opposition in the parliament called this period as a discontinuity in the planning process, as the plans were supposed to be for a period of 5 years. They named it a period of plan holiday, that is, planning was on no holiday. Now, the 4th plan, the plan period was 1969 to 74. The plan was based on the Gadgil strategy with special focus on the ideas of growth with stability and progress towards self-reliance. Droughts and the Indo-Pak War of 1971-72 led the economy to capital diversions, creating financial crunch for the plan. The politicization of planning started from this plan, which took serious populist design in the coming plans, frequent double-digit inflations, unreined increase in the fiscal deficit, subsidy-induced higher non-plan expenditure, and first move in the direction of nationalization and greater control of regulation of the economy were some of the salient features of this plan, which continued unchanged till the early 1990s. The search for political stability at the center converted planning into a tool of real politics with greater and greater centralization, ensuing plan after plan. Now, the 5th plan, that is from 1974 to 79, had its focus on poverty alleviation and self-reliance. The popular rhetoric of the poverty alleviation was sensationalized by the government to the extent of launching a fresh plan, that is a 20-point program in 1975, with a marginal importance being given to objective of growth with stability, one of the major objective of 4th plan. Now, the planning process got more politicized. The havocs of hyperinflation led the government to hand over a new function to Reserve Bank of India to stabilize the inflation, the function which RBI carries forward even today. A judicious price wage policy was started to check the menace of inflation on the wage earners. The plan saw an increase in the socio-economic and regional disparity despite the many institutional, financial, and other measures which were initiated by the government to attend to them. The nationalization policy continued. There was an overall decay in the quality of governance. A nexus of criminal politician and bureaucrats seems to emerge for the first time to hijack the political system. The plan period was badly disturbed by the draconian emergency and a change of the government and sector. The Janata Party came to power with a thumping victory in 1977 as the government of the time and then had the complete say in central planning in India. How could the new government continue with the fifth plan of the last government, which had still more than 1 year to reach its completion? The dramatic events led to the Indian planning may be seen objectively as given below. Now, the Janata government did cut short the fifth plan by a year ahead of its terminal year, that is, by the fiscal year of 1977-78, in place of the decided 78-79. A fresh plan, the sixth plan for the period 78 to 83, was launched by the new government, which called it the rolling plan. In 1980, there was again a change of government at the center with return of Congress, which abandoned the sixth plan of the Janata government in the year 1980 itself. The new government launched a new fresh sixth plan for the year 1980-85, but by the time 2 financial years of the Janata government sixth plan had already been completed. These 2 years of plan were adjusted by Congress government in a highly interesting way. The first year, 1978 to 79, was added to the fifth plan, which was cut short by the Janata government to 4 years, and thus the fifth plan officially became 5-year again, that is 74 to 79. Now, what to do with the second year, that is 79 to 80? The Congress government announced this year as a year of one annual plan. This annual plan, 79-80, may be considered the lone independent remnant of rolling plan of the Janata government. The sixth plan, that is 78 to 83, which could not become an official plan of India, had emphasis on some highly new economic ideas and ideals with almost complete no to foreign investment. New thrust on price control, rejuvenation of the PDS system, emphasis on small scale and cotton industries, new lease of life to Panchayati Raj institutions, that is second phase of revival of PRIs, agriculture and the subject of rural development getting the due, etc. being the major ones. Now, sixth plan, that is 1980 to 85, was launched with the slogan Garibi Hatao, that is to alleviate poverty. Already a program, TPP, was tested and tried by the same government in the fifth plan, which tried to improve the standard of living of the poor masses with direct approach, that is the idea of poverty alleviation, but such a slogan, Garibi Hatao, was not given to the program. The plan gave emphasis on socio-economic infrastructure in the rural areas, eliminating rural poverty and regional disparity through IRTP, commencing target group approach, together with launching a number of national level programs and schemes aimed at specific concerns and area development, the target group approach. Now, seventh plan, the plan 1985 to 90, emphasized on rapid food grain production, increased employment creation, productivity in general. The basic tenet of the planning, that is growth, modernization, self-reliance and social justice, remained as the guiding principle. The Jawahar Rojgar Yojana was launched in 1989 with the motive to create wage employment for rural poor. Some of the already existing programs such as IRDP, CADP, DPAP and DDP were reoriented. Till date, government has been evaluating the achievements of all development programs courtesy the youngest PM of India. Somehow, democracy and development got connected with major change in the thinking of political elite, which decided to go in for democratic decentralization to promote development. It laid strong foundation for itself as the constitutional amendments 73rd and 74th were possible by the early 1990s. Though the economy had better growth rates throughout 1980s, especially in the later half, yet it was at the cost of bitter fiscal imbalances. By the end of the plan, India had a highly unfavorable balance of payment situation, heavy foreign loans on which the governmental expenditure depended heavily during the period the economy failed to service. The plan was not laid with a strong financial strategy, which put the economy in a crisis of unsustainable balance of payment and fiscal deficit. India basically tried to attend its growth prospects by commercial and other external borrowings on hard terms, which the economy failed to sustain. In the process of liberalization, an expansion of internal demand for the home market was permitted without generating equitable levels of exports, and ultimately, Indian exports were financed by the costly external borrowings. Such an inward looking fiscal policy proved to be a mistake when the external aid environment for the economy was deteriorating. Now, two annual plans. The eighth plan, whose term would have ended in would have been 1990 to 95, could not take off due to the fast changing political situation at the center. The path breaking and restructuring oriented suggestion of the eighth plan, the sweeping economic reforms ensuing around the world, as well as the fiscal imbalances of the late 1980s, were the other important reasons for the delay in the launch of eighth plan. The new government, which assumed power at the center in June 1991, decided to commence the eighth plan for the period 1992 to 97, and the fiscals 1990 to 91 and 91-92 should be treated as two separate annual plans. The two consecutive annual plans 1990 to 92 were formulated within the framework of approach of eighth plan, with a basic thrust on maximization of employment and social transformation. Now, the eighth plan that is 1992 to 97, was launched in a typically new economic environment. The economic reforms were already started in July 1991 with the initiation of the structural adjustment and macro stabilization policies necessitated by worsening balance of payment, higher fiscal deficit, and unsustainable rate of inflation. This was the first plan which went on for an introspection of macroeconomic policies which the country had been pursuing for many decades. The major concern and path-breaking suggestions which this plan articulated may be summarized as follows. An immediate redefinition of the state's role in economy was suggested. Market-based development advised in areas which could afford it, that is greater role for the private sector in the economy, more investment in the infrastructure sector, especially in the laggard states, as the ongoing emphasis on greater private sector investment could not attract towards these states. Rising non-plan expenditure and fiscal deficits need to be checked. Subsidies need restructuring and refocusing. Planning immediately needs to be decentralized. Special emphasis on cooperative federalism suggested. Greater focus on agriculture and other rural activities was suggested, for which plan cited empirical evidences as they encourage the economy to achieve enhanced standard of living for its people and to promote the cause of balanced growth, a shift in the mindset of planning. As economy moved towards liberalization, criticism came from every quarter against the move. The process of planning was also criticized on the following counts. As economy moved towards market economy, the planning becomes irrelevant. When the state is rolling back, the planning makes no sense. Planning process should be restructured in the era of liberalization, and there should be increased thrust on social sector, that is education, healthcare, etc. Now, the ninth plan, with the term of 1997 to 2002, was launched when there was an all-round slowdown in the economy led by the Southeast Asian financial crisis of 96-97. Though the liberalization process was still criticized, the economy was very much out of the fiscal embargo of the early 1990s. With the general nature of indicative planning, the plan not only did target an ambitious high rate of growth, that is 7%, but also tried to direct itself towards time-bound social objectives. There was an emphasis on the 7 identified basic minimum services, with additional central assistance for these services, with a view to obtain complete coverage of the population in time-bound manner. The basic minimum services were safe drinking water, primary healthcare services, universalization of education, primary education, public housing assistance to shelterless poor families, nutritional support to children, connectivity of all villages and habitation, streamlining of public distribution system. The issue of fiscal consolidation became a top priority for the government for the first time, which has its focus on the following related issues: Sharp reduction in the revenue deficit of the government, including center, state, and the PSUs, through a combination of improved revenue collection and control of inessential expenditures. Cutting down subsidies, collection of user charges on economic services like electricity, transportation, etc., cutting down interest, wage, pension, PF, etc., decentralization of planning and implementation through greater reliance on states and PRIs. Now, the 10th plan, the plan of 2002 to 2007, commenced with the objective of greater participation of the NDC in their formulation. Some highly important steps were taken during the plan, which undoubtedly points out a change in the planning process mindset of the government. Major ones being doubling per capita income in 10 years, accepting that higher growth rates are not the only objective. It should be translated into improving the quality of life of people. For the first time, plan went on to set the monitorable targets for 11 select indicators of the development for center as well as for states. Governance was considered a factor of development. States' role in planning to be increased with greater involvement of PRI. Policy and institutional reforms in each sector, that is reforms in PSU, legal reforms, administrative reforms, labor reforms, etc. Agriculture sector declared as the prime moving force of the economy, increased emphasis on social sector, that is education, health, etc. Relevance between the process of economic reforms and planning emphasized. Now the 11th plan, the plan targets a growth rate of 10% and emphasizes the idea of inclusive growth. In the approach paper, the Planning Commission shows its concern regarding realizing the growth targets on account of compulsions towards Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. In recent times, some abbreviations in the economy have started to increase the government's concern in meeting the planned targets of 10% growth. The major concerns are higher inflation, that is above 6%, led to tightening of the credit policy, forcing lower investment in the economy, which lowered the production. A stronger rupee is making exports earnings shrink fast. Costlier food grains and other primary articles paying havoc for the poor masses. Costlier oil prices becoming a burden for the national exchequer, etc. Not only the government but the Confederation of Indian Industries, CII, as well as the World Bank expressed doubts in the 11th plan, realizing the ambitious 10% growth. Now, 12th plan, the draft approach paper of the 12th plan, that was 2012 to 17, was prepared by the Planning Commission after widest consultation till date. Recognizing the fact that citizens are now better informed and also keen to engage, over 950 civil society organizations across the country provided input. Business associations, including those representing small enterprises, have been consulted. Modern electronics and social media, Google Hangout, were used to enable citizens to give suggestions. All state governments as well as local representative institutions and unions have been consulted through 5 regional consultations. Though the approach paper for plan was approved by NDC by the mid-2011, the plan document was finalized much later after the launch of the plan, that is, of the plan like 10th and 11th plan. The draft approach paper lays down the major targets of the plan, the key challenges in meeting them, and the broad approach that must be followed to achieve the stated objectives. So targets, challenges, and approach, which are summed as follows. Now, the growth target of 9% is target for the plan. However, in view of uncertainties in the global economy and challenges in the domestic economy, the approach paper indicated that it could be achieved only if difficult decisions are taken. It emphasizes the need to intensify effort to have 4% average growth in the agriculture sector during the plan period, with food grains growing at about 2% per year, non-food grains, notably horticulture, livestock, dairy, poultry, fisheries, growing at 5 to 6%. The higher growth in agriculture would not only provide broad-based income benefits to the rural population but also help restrain inflationary pressure which could arise if high levels of growth are attempted without corresponding growth in domestic food production capability. It proposes that major flagship programs which were instrumental for promoting inclusiveness in the 11th plan should continue till 12th plan. There is a need to focus on issues of implementation and governance to improve their effectiveness. The plan indicated that the energy needs of rapid growth will pose a major challenge since these requirements have to be met in an environment where domestic energy prices are constrained and world energy prices are highly unlikely to rise further. For GDP to grow at 9%, commercial energy suppliers will have to grow at a rate between 6.5 to 7% per year. Since India's domestic energy supplies are limited, dependence upon imports will increase. Import dependence in case of petroleum has always been high and is projected to be 80% in 12th plan. Even in case of coal, import dependency is projected to increase as growth of thermal generation will require coal supplies which cannot be fully met from domestic mines. It suggested the need to take steps to reduce energy intensity of the production processes, increase domestic energy supply as quickly as possible, and ensure rational energy pricing that will help achieve both objectives, that is, reduce energy intensity of production process and enhance domestic energy supply, even though it may seem difficult to attempt. It draws attention to the evolving a holistic water management policy aiming at more efficient conservation of water and also in the water use efficiency, particularly in the field of agriculture. It argues that a new legislation for land acquisition is also necessary, which strikes an appropriate balance between the need of fair compensation of those whose land is acquired and whose livelihood is disrupted, and the need to ensure that land acquisition does not become an impossible impediment to meeting our needs for infrastructure development, industrial expansion, and urbanization. It maintains that health, education, and skill development will continue to be the focus areas in 12th plan, and that there needs to be to ensure adequate resources to these sectors, universal healthcare proposed by it. Emphatically, simultaneously, it also points the need to ensure maximum efficiency in terms of outcomes of the resources allocated to these sectors. The need to harness private investment in these sectors has also been emphasized by the approach. It takes cognizance of the fact that achieving 9% growth will require large investments in the infrastructure sectors, notes greater momentum to public investment, and public-private partnership in infrastructure sector needs to be imparted so that present infrastructure shortages can be addressed early. It has emphasized the importance of process of fiscal correction. However, the paper cautions that fiscal consolidations would imply the total resources available for the plan in short run will be limited. Resource limitation imply the need to prioritize carefully, and that some priority areas, example health, education, infrastructure, will have to be funded more than others. It also emphasized the need for focusing more on efficient use of available resources in view of resource constraints. The appraisal document for the 12th plan prepared by Niti Aayog estimated a growth rate of maximum 7.75%. Taking cues from the plan documents made a strong case for clear tax policy and focus on manufacturing sector. That'll be all for this video. In the next video, we'll be covering 20-point program.